They called him the Diesel.
Crank up that diesel. Let's go.
He leaned across the table and he goes, "You need to get me back there. I'll make you famous."
And to Riggins, good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone.
It's Riggo, the Diesel.
Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us here on Riggo the Diesel. I am Riggo the Diesel. Larry Michael, the voice of the Washington Redskins, and a whole lot more, is joining me, as he always does, for this 57th episode. Larry, let's start off with the fact that, looking at just reminiscing about the game on Sunday and, the evolution that this team has gone through from the beginning of the season. This isn't the same team by a long shot that when the season started out. I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, obviously they're missing the head coach that they started out with.
Right.
And, you've got a quarterback playing now that wasn't, I guess, really factored into the plans very much way back when. But, this is an interesting thing that we're seeing here, I think, develop out there on the football field. They've got so many young guys out there. There's something that had been lacking even back at the beginning of the season. Don't ask me why, but it seemed to be a little bit like, I don't know if I want to use the word enthusiasm. Something's going on that these guys seem to be playing at a higher level of intensity. And also they're very focused. I mean, they're still making, some mistakes, but you don't really see the amount of mistakes that they were making. I'm talking about basically penalties that they were at the beginning of the season. A lot has changed in the sense that I think if you're a fan, you got to feel kind of good about this team, because clearly when they were on the, they were on the skids, and, let's face it, 3-11, that's not a particularly great record to be proud of or anything. But they're playing these games out. They're playing all 60 minutes of football, and that's good to see, because I don't think most people would have counted on that happening, because I think at that point the fans had lost so much interest. You naturally expect the players would lose interest, but they haven't done that.
Wonder why that is. I mean, you had the coach, obviously, Bill Callahan, put some new things in place, scheduling different things. I don't think there was anything major. The focus on the running game, though, to me, is something that you go back to the first game of the season, and Adrian Peterson was not active for the first game of the season. To date, he's got 782 yards. And so it's a stretch to say he's going to get to 1,000. If he had played that first game, heck, he might have been there by now. So you can look back on how the team never did build an identity at the beginning of the year. And I think now, obviously some of that identity is not good because they've only got 3 wins. But you take a look at, say, Peterson, he's got, I would say if you took all of the other skill players who start on offense and multiply their games played times 10, Peterson still got 30 more games played than them, if you add it all up. So it's a weird dichotomy of all these young guys and Peterson. And I really like the offense. The defense, I really like the players on the defense. I think the coaches are doing the best they can with what they've got. But the common denominator of third down defense has been something that has haunted this team from the very beginning of the year. They can't get off the field, John. That almost goes to last year, too. Can't get off the field on third down, and that wears you out. That keeps your offense off the field. Regardless of how many offensive weapons you got, it's not good when the other team is on the field that much more than the Redskins. To me, I focus in on that and how that defense, I mean, maybe you can find something in the last couple games to make you feel good about the future.
It's interesting as you go around and you look at the different, units on the football team, and one that doesn't get mentioned very often, and when they did, usually it was for doing something that screwed up a drive. But your offensive line. I mean, you think about the beginning of the year and the tumult that Williams put the team through by, holding out and all this stuff, and didn't, I guess they probably knew early on, but I think a lot of fans, at least myself, you didn't know, is he going to come back or not come back? Right. Well, they just kind of, Donald Penn has stepped in here and I think done a very, very good job at playing left tackle. Eric Flowers comes in, he's a first-round draft pick, he was a cast-off last year from the New York Giants. and found a home at left guard. And so, in other words, you go into the season, you got a lot of uncertainties here. These guys have played well. And just past Sunday, Sheriff is out of the game.
Yeah.
And you got Wes Martin comes in, and he's doing an incredible job. So they played well, really, and you think about all that the offense did. So they gave Haskins a chance to throw the ball around, and they gave Peterson some places to run. And as you look at the offense, all you see is youth, really, for the most part. I mean, Donald Penn obviously has been around, and you're probably going to have to figure something out there. And even the great Adrian Peterson, I don't think you can count on him going into next year to be at that same level. But if Geis, and he seems to be, the one thing that you wished, for whatever reason, for his own personal reasons, but also from the team standpoint, that he could still play, because you have to, based on what he done in his little short span that he was on the team, he was a pretty exciting guy. That offense, with him in the backfield, and then and Adrian Peterson has bailed him out magnificently. But you'd be looking at this team going, "Gee whiz, they got something going on here." And I actually probably had enough this year, but you might be looking forward to next year already.
You might be. The one thing you can't overlook are the numbers, and the numbers really to stare at you in the face. The Redskins defense somewhere around 19th, 20th. They were 17th last week. Redskins offense 32nd, and there's 32 teams in the National Football League. We're excited about the offense because we see the future, I think. You see McLaurin's got a lot of talent. Harmon looks like a good receiver. You mentioned Steven Sims Jr. He's exciting. Haskins is growing. Got some good news at the offensive line, but 32nd overall. So they're going to have to do something about adding to that offense, depending on how they finish, what the draft picks might be available, who's where and all that, and where they might end up. They're going to have to draft for offense, but also you got to look at maybe you're finding some young defensive backs here down the stretch, because Danny Johnson came in last week. He had been hurt. He was a big star of last year's training camp. He got hurt. He looked great. He led the team in tackles. And, obviously they had to put Josh Norman in because a couple guys got dinged up. But I think as this evolves, that defense is going to get even younger. And then hopefully, you see what kind of, obviously everybody's waiting on the big news and everybody's grasping. They saw Urban Meyer at the game, and everybody jumped on that. Urban Meyer's here. Well, there was logical reasons for him to be there. He was close by. He was in Philadelphia, and he was hanging out, kind of chummy with Alex Smith. Well, that happened to be his player at Utah. And, he's sitting in the owner's box, which is fine. And he's got two players out there of high regard in Dwayne and Terry. But, the speculation is going to run rampant until something comes up, until an announcement is made. And, Bill Callahan, sure, he's thinking that he could have a shot at that job by winning a couple games down the stretch. I think what he's done is impressive. I think you kind of alluded to that. This team continues to fight. They haven't given up. And for a team that had its coach removed after 5 games, they've circled the wagons pretty good, I think.
Oh, they've done a magnificent job of that, I think. Excuse me. The Urban Meyer thing, real quick, it's kind of like, I don't know, Larry. I mean, that's too. I don't know how many college coaches go out of their way to go to a football game as if they'd never seen one, to go see a couple of their former teammates play. I think they probably could have gotten on DirecTV or something.
He probably
like
could
that.
have. And,
I think there's,
He did mention the high regard he had for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, he did.
In an earlier interview, he mentioned they're like the New York Yankees of football, I think he said.
The Cowboys.
Somebody had mentioned that.
Well, that's not the right thing to say.
No.
If you're wanting to be employed out here in Ashburn.
No, but, again, I don't see him coaching. I think he's a college coach. That's my feeling. He's a great college coach. It's a different ball game. I mean, some guys have made that transition. We know there's been plenty that haven't. Nick Saban, Lou Holtz, obviously Steve Spurrier. I mean, there's a pretty long list of successful college coaches.
Exactly, that struggled when they got into the professional ranks.
Now, you know what?
Well, the only two that I can think of, Pete Carroll and Jimmy Johnson.
That's true. Those two have done very well. And, of course, it's a matter of dollars and cents. If it's enough dollars, it'll make sense.
That pretty much sums it all up. All right, Larry, what do you got?
I got you something here. Like any great roster, the Virginia Lottery's lineup of holiday games features different and impressive stars. Let's take a look at the lineup. For $1, you can play the Naughty or Nice Scratcher and have a chance to win $1,000. The $2 holiday cash game gives players a shot at winning up to $20,000. All kinds of incremental winnings. And don't forget, you can play the holiday-themed e-games on your mobile device with Mobile Play. All you need is a Virginia Lottery app and to be a Virginia Lottery retailer. Give the gift of Virginia Lottery holiday games, John.
Well, I'm not going to tell you all about O'Connor Plumbing today. I've been doing that for, several years now. But I am just going to tell you on behalf of O'Connor Plumbing and myself, we'd like to wish you a very happy holidays as we close in on Christmas, Hanukkah, and the New Year. But if you would find yourself in a situation where you need some work on some pipes or whatever, a faucet, please call O'Connor Plumbing. 1-833-RIGGO-44. They'll come out. They'll wear the cape, the whole deal. They're supermen and superwomen. They'll get the job done. So, happy holidays from O'Connor Plumbing and John Riggins.
Hey, listen to this one. This is very interesting. Redskins fans, we're crowning the ultimate Hailgate champion. Redskins alum, the one and only Rick Doc Walker, will be judging the best tailgate in the Safeway Red Zone lot before the Redskins take on the Giants at home this coming Sunday, the final home game of the year, defending FedEx Field against the New York Giants. Learn more at redskins.com/Hailgate champion. Now, Doc Walker.
Is it tail or hail?
Well, it is a tailgate championship, but it is a Hailgate event because that's kind of a play on words.
I got you.
Go to redskins.com/Hailgate champion for more information. Now, you know what? Doc Walker judging a food contest.
Well, I think they got more there than just food, Larry.
Well,
does that get factored in? I'm wondering if somebody goes and they got a little Mexican motif going on, and they start shaking up the martinis.
Cervezas?
I was going to cervezas. I was thinking more like margaritas.
Margaritas.
Well, Doc might just not even bother leaving.
Doc's got a job to do on Sunday. He can handle anything, though.
Oh, yeah. He'll be good for it.
That's redskins.com/Hailgate champion for more information.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand back and watch the Phoenix rise from the ashes.
Stand back. It's Riggo the Diesel.
That's right. Stand way the hell back. Riggo the Diesel rising from the ashes as we do every Tuesday with Larry Michael, your voice of the your Washington Redskins.
Amazing resiliency by John, rising from the ashes each and every week.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Kind of figure out how we're like, who's the guy that got his liver eaten up, Prometheus or something like that? And then, because he gave man fire or whatever. And I think it's one of those guys. And then, every night this happened, and the vultures would come and eat his liver out, but it grew back over. I don't know how it worked.
Wow.
Those Greek gods, they're an interesting crew if you get into them.
That is an interesting
They got
crew.
a lot of stuff going on.
A lot
of stuff.
Fire and all kinds of stuff.
Yes,
all
they do.
kinds of superpowers.
They got cyclopses and they got
Yeah. What was the guy? Centaur?
Oh, yeah, the
Right?
centaur.
Half man, half horse.
That's it.
How do you think that happened, John? How do you think?
I don't even want to think about how that happened, but I would guess it happened on a farm somewhere. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, being a farm boy from the farm, well, not technically a farm boy, but we did have 80 acres
but you didn't have no centaurs running around there, did you?
And there are no centaurs since I've left either, so
No.
we're all good there.
Okay.
All right, so we got the Giants coming up on Sunday.
Yes.
This is kind of an interesting game in a lot of ways. I mean, I got to believe this is Eli Manning's last year, right? It's his swan song. I mean, didn't he play his last home game, I guess, this past Sunday?
He did, and they won. And they won, but he is so immobile. I mean, this would be the game where the Redskins could get 10 sacks in this game. Let's be honest.
Makes you wonder if you're Eli Manning. I've always often thought of that. At least when I was at the end, I can remember we went to we were out playing in St. Louis back out the last game of the season.
Busch Stadium?
At Busch Stadium. And I forget, early on in the game, it was a cold day, as it typically was. And so many years, it seemed like we would either play the last game or next to the last game in St. Louis. And for whatever reason, it always seemed to be bitter cold.
People should be reminded that St. Louis was part of the NFC East at one time.
That's correct. Oh, yeah. I never thought to mention that.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of fans, there hadn't been a team there, or I should say it was the Rams the last time they had a team there.
Right.
But anyway, back in those days, and of course, Busch Stadium is interesting because there was one side of the field, because, that time of year, late in December, the sun has a certain, it hits only such a certain part because it's low on the horizon. And there was always one end, and it wasn't the end, it was in the outfield because the baseball team played there as well.
Right.
and that would never get any sun, and that thing would be frozen. I mean, it was just like playing on concrete, basically.
Oh my God!
And then they'd go out when it's frozen. They try to thaw it. They tried everything. They'd go out there and they'd put urea down, which is fertilizer, and that's like 45% nitrogen. And you get out there and you get a cut. You slide on that stuff and get a burn. You get that fertilizer in there. Oh, it was just nasty.
That's horrible.
It wasn't good. But anyway, this last game, and you're talking about Eli Manning, and I think that Washington got down on the goal line pretty quickly, and George Rogers at this time was the starting running back. And I remember Don Broke come running over to me, Riggo, they're on the goal line. I went, and Don, let him handle it, because I'm thinking to myself, now
that was a fertilizer.
I'm thinking, I'm thinking. This is the last game of the season. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that far, but he's the new guy. Let him take over. And you know what? I don't want to be spending the off season in a cast or something like that because I went out there. So I'm looking at Eli Manning and I'm thinking to myself, God, if he's like you said, I mean, he's playing it on out and a string on out. But if he's really gotten to that point, and sometimes it happens so quickly. I mean, his brother went the same way. You're starting to look at Tom Brady going, is he hitting the wall?
Yeah.
But I mean, this is where a guy goes out there and he tries to, he's going to do the right thing. Of course, he's getting paid. He shouldn't have showed up at camp if he didn't want to do it. But you get out there and get sawed in half. And the way the defense is playing now, and particularly Ryan Anderson, good Lord. Good luck, Eli. That's about all I can say.
I don't know how you could pour fertilizer in an open wound and not get just extremely hurt and in a lot of pain.
It's like a chemical burn is what you end up with.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's not good.
Well,
it's
anyway,
not fun.
we need to put some fertilizer down at FedEx Field and get them on that.
Well, fertilizer out there wouldn't hurt anything because they fertilize it on, of course, winter fertilization. We can get into that program next week.
But you tell me, Saquon Barkley looks like he's lost a little bit of confidence since he injured that ankle. Now, obviously, this week he's going to get 200 yards from me saying that. But what happens to a running back who has a hurt ankle, a guy who's got that side-to-side mobility that he has? He's got thighs that are as big as a tree trunk. He's a power runner. Kind of got the body type of a Barry Sanders. He's got good lateral movement. Well, I would think that maybe he still doesn't feel right.
That would be my guess. You got to look at a guy just what you're talking about. And really, he is the prototypical. If you look at some of the really good running backs in the past 15, 20 years, and particularly since I would say, now not 100%, but since the advent of artificial turf, it's allowed the guy that is short, compact, you got a real low center of gravity. You can't knock these guys off their feet on top of that. And they were talking about the running back from from Philadelphia this past week.
Yeah, Miles Sanders,
5'8". You're so short.
That's Boston Scott, another little guy, right? Smaller.
And you get guys that are that short, and you got offensive linemen that are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". Linebackers are looking around, where the hell is he? And so I think Barkley falls into that category. But I was nicked up years ago, my second season, in fact, and I had turf toe, but it happened on a grass field where I got a really hyperextension of the big toe. And, you lose a lot of, you basically, because, I was more or less a power runner, that, you start running differently. In fact, it caused another injury later in the season, I believe, in my right knee, because there's a piece of cartilage from underneath the kneecap that chipped out. So I'm thinking that he's trying to adjust, just what you said, that it's bothering him somehow, not enough to stay on the sidelines, but certainly enough to hamper his being, at full speed. And that's where, as a player, you got to be careful, because you only get one instrument, so to speak. And they start banging up your car, so figuratively, like in Demolition Derby, it might not go much further. So if you're out there on the field, and particularly a guy like him, where you can't, your game more or less is to avoid people, and now you can't avoid them. Yeah. Now you're at risk, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
It's not like NASCAR. You can put new wheels on.
Yes,
there.
You can, and you get a whole new body, and they've got everything back
in the back.
I've been to Coach Joe's place, and believe he's got like triplicate of. Well, it's even beyond triplicate.
I know
of everything.
It's unbelievable,
and they can build it probably while the race is still going on if they don't have it on hand.
But you need them legs, and you know what? One question I want to ask you before we read a couple more of our sponsors' messages, but these two teams are near the bottom when it comes to records. And a lot of fans are talking about, and I've heard this in a lot of places, look good but don't win, because that'll assure you of a higher pick. How in the world can a pro football player cannot tank? somehow an organization might put guys down, or maybe they take the conservative approach to players that are injured, and that hurts their roster. But the players that are on the field, to me, you can't half-step, or you're going to get your head knocked off. What are your thoughts on that?
You're 100% right. I mean, from that standpoint, also this whole deal of getting a higher draft, higher line, higher up in the queue of drafting.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers Ryan Leaf, don't they?
That's true.
I mean, my point is there's no guarantee when you draft, if you have the number one overall pick, there are so many number one overall picks that were busts that there's no guarantee of anything. So, and from a player standpoint, you have to go out and play the thing out all the way, because I've always felt like when you start cutting back half speed, that's when you get injured.
Yep. All right. We're going to be back, talk a little bit about Christmas in a moment, but whether you're on the field or the classroom, the Redskins believe learning should be fun. That's why we partner with youth entrepreneurs to bring their engaging, hands-on style of learning to classrooms in the D.C. area. Youth Entrepreneurs curriculum was created by educators for educators. That means it's flexible, fun, and absolutely free. Learn more about Youth Entrepreneurs and how to experience it for yourself. Visit get-e.org. And helping people improve their lives is what should drive business. That's the belief at Koch Industries, which employs more than 65,000 people across America. The team at Koch works together to meet the world's changing needs in transportation, medical care, water filtration, household goods, energy-efficient building products, and everyday technologies, all while consuming fewer resources. See the innovations firsthand at kochindustries.com. Hey, fans, don't forget, the all-new this year, you can watch the Redskins on Yahoo Sports or the official Redskins app, free on your phone or tablet. Download the Redskins app today.
Hey, I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
Who's bored? Who's broke? And who's back?
I wanted to always see the redwoods. I wanted to see the Rocky Mountains. I wanted to see the Painted Desert, the Petrified Forest, the Grand Canyon. That was like the land that I always wanted to go to.
John Riggins.
Well, I think I got three of those, Larry. I got the redwoods, I got the Rockies, and
Painted Desert.
Didn't get the Painted Desert, but there was one other one. What was it? Oh well,
the redwoods.
Got redwoods, got Rockies.
Play that one again, will you? Play it again.
I didn't get the paint. I drove. I must have driven past
There's
it.
one missing. Here you go. I just love hearing it.
Who's bored? Who's broke? And who's back?
I wanted to always see the redwoods. I wanted to see the Rocky Mountains. I wanted to see the Painted Desert, the Petrified Forest, the Grand Canyon. That was
Petrified
like the
Forest
land
and
that I
Grand
always
Canyon
wanted to go to.
John
you been to Petrified
Riggins.
Forest?
No, but I drove past it years ago, and I took my motorcycle the year I had the Mohawk haircut. I left Kansas in early May, and I ended up coming back in July sometime on a motorcycle. I drove out to L.A.
Wow.
I went to Provo. I had a friend of mine who played for the Jets at the time. That's when I was holding out, and stayed with him for about a week. Then I drove down to Scottsdale, stayed with some friends there. Then I went out to Manhattan Beach, California, met up with the guy that I stayed with in Utah, that he grew up in Torrance, California, and his sister was living with a guy who had a A-frame on the beach there on the Strand.
Wow.
So
Sounds nice.
Worked out for a week and then headed back. So yeah, that was a very fun.
Did you wear a
interesting
helmet?
trip. Of course I did.
Okay.
Of course I
That's
did.
what I was asking.
Yeah,
if that
absolutely.
Mohawk was blowing in the breeze, but you weren't a helmet.
I remember one time. Now we're talking about that. I pulled into Flagstaff, Arizona, and it was chilly then. It's kind of interesting, and even though it was probably by then it was probably late May, but it was chilly in Flagstaff. Flagstaff's at elevation compared to Phoenix.
Okay.
I pulled in there, got off my bike, and I'm sitting there getting gas and doing something. All of a sudden, about 3 or 4 bikers. These guys had on these insulated coveralls and stuff. Had beards. It almost looked like ZZ Top.
Right.
And these guys get off their bikes. They walk over where I am, and I'm messing around with my bike, and they're looking at the bike. They're looking at me. They walk around. Really, I'm going, okay, what are we going to do here? We're going to have a little fun here at the gas station? And then they turned around and left and got on their bikes and left.
Sons of Anarchy, huh?
That's what it felt like.
The Sons of Anarchy. Hey, John, how's the Christmas shopping going for you?
I was going to ask you. You
man.
beat me to the question.
Well, you know what? It's a different year for us, and I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all because my wife says, we're doing Secret Santa with the kids this year.
What's that? I've never.
That's where everybody picks a name out, and you're not buying a ton of gifts for everybody. One person is buying one gift for the person whose name they pull out of the hat. So, I've got 3 kids, and, they have, one of them has a spouse, one of them is engaged. My son is currently unattached, and so I've got my daughter's name. And so
you got granddaughters.
But the granddaughter is going to get 150 gifts as a result, because my dining room table right now is completely covered with gifts. And I asked her, I said, what? I thought we weren't. I said, well, we got to get something for Harper. Well, Harper's got 50 gifts sitting there now. So I had an idea that I wanted to get from my daughter, but you know what? I'm running out of time. I wanted to get her something specially made, so I might just get her something.
Give her a card with whatever needs specially made to be.
Or just slip her a couple bucks. I mean, everybody likes money, right? Is that kind of like a.
Listen, Larry, now you're in my wheelhouse. I mean, let's face it, cash is king as far as I'm concerned.
It is. I agree.
I personally, and of course the retailers don't want to hear this, but I refuse to stand in line to give people money. That just doesn't work for me. And this time of year, more often than not, when you're out in some of the department stores or wherever you may be, some of the retail shops, you get in there and you get there the wrong time, and you might have to wait 15, 20 minutes just to get up to the cashier to pay for something. I experienced this in New York City years ago, and I don't like to do that. So you got a couple options. My wife has been pretty busy the last couple of nights on the internet doing that. I mean, obviously with the advent of the internet, and you got UPS and and you got FedEx and the mail service system, and even what is it, JBL or something like that. There's some foreign. There's so much packages flowing around nowadays.
Amazon, man.
And getting delivered.
Yeah.
That probably is not a bad way to go. But to me, I don't know. I never can come up with the kind of gift. I've always said I'm going to do my Christmas shop in October. I've yet to do it. And here's another thing. Keep this in mind, that Thanksgiving was so late this year. It was basically at the end of November. November 28th, and you had 2 more days. And guess what? 3 weeks until Christmas. So it's really been a hurried deal this year. I mean,
it seems like there's less decorations out for Christmas. It seems like either maybe I've been working too hard, totally consumed with the Redskins. I don't see the same decorations out, at least in my neighborhood. And now, Christmas is next week. It's going to be over before you know it.
Christmas Eve's a week from today.
Yeah. I mean, I better get going, man. I'm going to the MGM tonight for a Redskins event. Maybe I'll go to one of those shops and get something for my daughter.
That'd be nice. Yeah. I always go like where I am right now in the phase that I'm thinking about what should I get people? What should I get people? And I'm going, okay, that won't work. And then, then it's I got to go out the store. And then I always come back to that same conclusion. I just get to the strong box, take a little cash out. I do it every year. So, by the way, I'll tell you a real quick story, and then we got to go. Right. Years ago in New York City, it was probably back in the late 1990, whatever, or it was early 2000. But my brother-in-law was in town. He used to come and have Christmas with us. His father's deceased, and he'd come with Lisa Marie. He's the baby in the family, and he'd stay with it. So he and I left the apartment one day in New York City. This is on Christmas Eve now, and I went over to the garage and got my car. Larry, it was the best shopping I've ever done because nobody was in New York City. It was stunning. I'd pull up in front of stores with the car and just double park, jump out, go inside, buy what I want, come back out, get in the car, go to the next store. Never got a ticket, there was no traffic on the road. It was like the cops had even went home on Christmas. This started about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I went till about 5. And the best part of it, Larry, the whole time, I had a half a pint of Knob Creek in my back pocket because I thought it's kind of like old-time Christmas shopping.
Yeah. Did you do caroling as well?
Didn't get that far. We ended up at a gin mill after I parked the car and go in there, and this gal who is new on the job, and they didn't have the pour spout on there, so it's got an open pour.
Oh.
And we asked for Macallan, which is not cheap scotch.
It depends on what
it was
year.
A brand new bottle. She gave us so much scotch, it was almost like half the bottle. And when she realized what she did, she says, can you guys drink those up pretty quick? It was a great Christmas Eve.
Wow.
So anyway.
Let's get in the car and go.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
I'm going to Costco, though. But they got beer and wine over there. So anyway, we'll see you all next week for episode 58 on Riggo the Diesel.
It's a deal.
Okay, holiday gift for Sarah. What do I know about Sarah? She's tall, blonde, likes coffee. Coffee gift card! Gah, come on, you can do better than that. Is there a great gift for tall people? I bet anyone would think to get her that anyway. I need special, super duper unique, a gift that wows. Yeah,
You could brainstorm the perfect gift forever, or avoid the risk of disappointment and give the gift of holiday scratchers from the Virginia Lottery.
And now, time for another Honda highlight. The air was cold, but the deals were heating up at the Happy Honda Days sales event. With the entire versatile roster on clearance, all signs pointed to victory. Turbocharged tandems like the Accord and Civic, or all-wheel drive SUVs like the CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, and Passport. With clearance pricing, everyone's a champion.
Have your own Honda highlight with a clearance deal during the Happy Honda Days sales event. Now at your local Honda dealer.
Locally owned Novec has competitive rates and some of the highest customer satisfaction ratings among electric utilities in Virginia. Novec members are receiving more than $4 million in cashback credits in December, and they enjoy the most reliable power in the region. Novec is growing its renewable energy supply, including more solar. Novec, power you can trust.
Hey Redskins Nation, this is the old pro Darryl Green. How many of you out there are tired of dealing with the big banks who answer your phones with that dreaded recording? Press 1, press 2, press 3. If you want personal customer service, I recommend giving Main Street Bank a call. I promise you, your call will be answered by a person and not a robot. And you'll be treated with the courtesy you deserve. I know, I'm a founding director of Main Street Bank. So try us out. Visit mstreetbank.com. We bank where you breathe. Member FDIC.